and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Patreon-sponsored review time again, and it's a sequel to one. We're gonna finish off Junji Ito's cosmic horror story, Hellstar Remina. Last time on Last Year, Professor Oguro discovered a planet emerging from a wormhole from another universe and named it after his daughter, Remina. Because celebrity culture, especially in Japan, is so bizarre, said 16-year-old daughter is made into a celebrity because of this connection, getting sponsorship deals, singing contracts, etc., etc. Problem is, it turns out the planet is actually a giant world-devouring monster that heads straight for Earth, gobbling up the solar system in the process. Sadly, as Men in Black once said, people are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, so the citizenry of Japan lays the blame for the apocalypse on Remina and her father, literally crucifying them. Professor Oguro is killed, and after some other shenanigans involving her creepier, more obsessed fans, Remina is back in the hands of the mob, who think killing her will appease the monster that wants to eat the Earth. However, because of the collective insanity that has overtaken them, they demand that she be chased down and taken, which is where we left off at the end of Chapter 3. So let's dig into the remaining 3 chapters of Hellstar Remina and see just how much worse things can get for our heroine. Because it's Junji Ito, and it can always get worse.
Always look on the bright side of life.
It's a manga, these are scanlations, let's just jump right back in. We pick up where we left off, Remina fleeing not only from the mob, but this dude on a jetpack. Oh yeah, forgot to mention, this takes place in the far-off year of 20XX. Though honestly, aside from the presence of jetpack snipers, I'm not really sure what the point was of setting it in a Mega Man game. An earthquake suddenly hits as we get our chapter title. Chapter 4, Under Her Tongue. Human Remina is going to have a very unorthodox solution to this problem. The planet is once again advancing on Earth, causing the gravitational strain that's wrecking the Earth, and the mob decides, you know, maybe it's pissed that we're taking our time killing the girl. Let's actually finish that. Human Remina crawls under an underpass and finds a homeless person's lean-to. She crawls in, hoping to hide from the mob, but finds a homeless person inside. Barging into a man's house just as you please? Go on, get out! Damn right, the apocalypse is no reason to be rude, Remina. She begs to stay because of the people hunting her, but the point is moot because the mob catches her. She instinctively hugs him for help, which gets the attention of the cult leader, who says to yank them both out of there. Someone gets ready to put a scythe in Remina's head, but the cult leader stops him. Remina's execution is ordained. We must observe proper rituals, like the ritual of hunting her down with jetpacks. That was essential! Even one of the crowd mentions that it seems odd to prioritize rituals when they're about to be slaughtered by Planet Remina, but the cult leader says not to worry. They're not in immediate danger. Buildings are collapsing around you due to an earthquake. It sounds like it's pretty immediate. There is actually a bit of an explanation for this, as we'll see later. Anyway, he insists on bringing the homeless guy too. You ought to be put to death for the crime of fraternizing with a known witch. I mean, you're technically all fraternizing with her right now, just saying. After some more abuse to the two, even drowning Remina in a canal, the grinning psychopaths doing this to her pull her out. Come on, give us a smile, you little bitch! Even as the world is ending and she's being tortured as a precursor to being murdered, assholes are demanding women smile more. Not the end of the world! Okay, was that Remina yelling that? Because it very clearly is ending. Or was that supposed to be like, I'm not gonna smile at the end of the world? It's just a very odd dialogue balloon out of nowhere. Anyway, the two are strung up by their hands behind their backs, ow, and the homeless guy is indignant to the end. Bastards, I ain't your pinata! We make this guy the main character? His complete and utter disdain for these jackasses and this entire situation is kind of refreshing. But no, if we did that, we'd have to lose more scenes of Remina being tortured. But hell, even as they kick the homeless guy around, he just sneers at them and says they're only tough now that the world's ending. Yet another page of torture follows, and look, I like Junji Ito, but like I said last time, dude has a real problem with his female protagonists getting crapped on by the universe and them just having to sit there and take it, and this is one of the biggest examples of it. Did we really need page after page of her being tortured like this? It doesn't enhance the story. I think by chapter 4, after everything that has happened to her, being crucified, almost raped, chased and beaten and assaulted and drowned, we get it! Anyway, they spot the shadow of Planet Remina's tongue again and decide they need to move on to the actual killing part and bring her back to the courtyard where she was going to be crucified. Shockingly enough, they find the corpse of her father still hanging there. Mind you, a little more extra crispy thanks to the fallen missiles. Gotta say, for a violent, raging mob that probably whipped that thing up in a few minutes, impressive that it's still standing. Since they're in kind of a rush, they don't bother to make a new cross or anything, just shove Remina onto her dad's corpse and put the homeless guy on the other side. Efficient. They light a fire under them as the crowd screams for the two to suffer. Oh, did the comic want Remina to suffer? They've been so coy about that. But once again, Planet Remina's tongue decides to put an end to this nonsense as it emerges from the clouds, and thus it descends down on the Earth and, well, licks it. Call of Cthulhu would have been a very different story if the monster licked the planet. Most of the mob flee in horror as the tongue gets rather close to them, but the cult leader does not, instead climbing onto Remina and whipping out a similar tongue to the planet to lick her with. Okay, what's grosser, Planet Remina licking the Earth or the cult leader licking Remina? The force of the planet's tongue creates a massive windstorm, and yet again, that cross that they're on is holding strong. The homeless guy says he can't see what's going on because of the dust. That f***ing alien thing! It was staring right at us! Just like some fat little kid drooling at a snack! And a snack's what we're gonna be if that thing up there can stomach us! That's a possibility that we hadn't really considered, I guess. That unlike the other planets in the solar system, we might actually just taste bad to it. And just to add to this bad day, a tsunami is caused by the windstorm and it hits the cross, sending them away. Meanwhile, one of the things I didn't mention in the recap is that a group of rich people and politicians are under the delusion that Planet Remina is perfectly hospitable. A paradise even! Despite the last transmission from the world being vague, dark humanoid shapes near the astronauts. Kinda looked like a horrifying version of those wavy arm advertisements around a tire store. Anyway, this group of idiots are taking off in a rocket to land on Remina. Among them are the rich family that owned a construction company that sponsored human Remina, the Menashis, whose son was the would-be rapist I mentioned earlier. One of the reasons they're convinced everything is okay is because the father thinks that his estranged son is one of the astronauts on the planet. Meanwhile, back with our heroes, the cross they were on got lodged in a building that's toppled over. Somehow the tsunami hitting them did not kill them, and the homeless guy wakes up. Oh, God! Thought I was done for! This is not how I expected my first bath in 10 years to go! Here's where things get weird. Or to be more precise, given how weird the story can be in places, kind of goofy. Everything suddenly goes dark and the homeless guy sees the stars in the sky moving rapidly. He quickly realizes, as evidenced by the title of chapter 5, Licked, that the Earth is actually spinning. Yes, the tongue lashing the planet just got has caused the Earth to start spinning rapidly on its axis. Now, I am not a scientist, and when I asked my resident scientist about this, he just started cackling wildly and saying, "Why didn't I think of that?" But it seems like if something like that was gonna happen, most of the things on the surface of the planet would be, like, thrown off of it. And if not that, then at least the wind would be moving so fast that we would be unable to breathe it. One look at the place, you gotta think, this is the end. Really? What was your first clue that was happening? The cult leader has also somehow survived and crawls up out of the water while the homeless guy works to free himself and Remina. The cult leader, evidently having had enough, grabs a shard of glass, but instead of stabbing Remina, cuts her down and carries her like a rag doll. To the homeless guy's confusion, the cult leader then starts leaping incredible distances. And indeed, the homeless guy also realizes that he's floating. Yes, while the spinning isn't throwing everyone off the planet, it is making everything lighter. Not that that's any comfort for poor Remina, since the cult leader starts spinning her around like a lasso and bashing her against the side of a building like she was Kyle Rayner and he was Mary Marvel. He's even laughing maniacally while he does this. I mean, when this kind of insanity is happening, you just gotta laugh, am I right? Little punk son of a... This ain't over! Bears! The homeless guy, generally just pissed at everything that's happened, has decided that even if this is the end, the last thing he's gonna do is smack the cult leader down. As such, he soon figures out how to leap around like Spider-Man and have a mid-air battle with him. He even manages to grab Remina, who's still unconscious after all this. The fact that she is not dead yet is either a miracle or a sign of a very angry god. How you like that, you mask-wearing homos? Oh, come on, dude. I was actually liking you. The cult leader decides to call for help. Hey, everyone! Look, it's Remina! There she is! Everybody get her! Oh, sure, dude. My wife is trapped under 3 buildings, and I'm playing leapfrog in what used to be my kid's school, but sure, I'll help. After all, nothing bad has happened every single time we're about to murder her! Actually, as it happens, I'm gonna spoil this right away, especially in light of my prior talk about the lack of agency of Junji Ito heroines. Human Remina has absolutely nothing to do with the planet. Yeah, I joke about the planet reacting to what's happening to her, but as far as we can tell in the story, it is completely coincidental. It's an element that really works with its Lovecraftian outlook, that humans are unimportant specks of dust in the cosmos, and beings larger and more terrible than us can just annihilate us without even knowing they did it. The people are trying to create a human villain they can project their fear and hatred onto because they can't do anything to the planet. They are utterly powerless, so they invent an enemy to destroy. An innocent girl who a few minutes ago was repeatedly getting slammed against a wall by some asshole in a robe. And they'll come out of the woodwork to murder her, even now as the Earth is literally spinning out of control. Now, you may be asking, if human Remina has nothing to do with the planet, why does the cultist have the same kind of tongue as it, even the same eye shape for his mask? So hey, it turns out we're getting that My Little Pony and Transformers crossover. That's neat. The homeless guy flees with Remina on his back, even going through a storm to do it as people start leaping into the air after him. This is how I imagine most people would look if they suddenly developed flying powers. And it just kind of goes like that, having to occasionally land and jump again as they move. More and more people start following after them, some unfortunate enough to smack into buildings without main character shields like Remina, and eventually leaping over the ocean. Yeah, they're light enough that they can just tap the water and maintain their momentum. Or maybe I've got this whole thing wrong and the homeless guy is actually Jesus. You know, if this was a Frank Miller comic, you'd be yelling, "Damn!" Although come to think of it, homeless guy is kind of doing that anyway. Is that what was going on in that bit of All-Star Batman and Robin? Superman was being chased by cultists who wanted to kill the doctor he was carrying? Back with the escaping rich people, they make their landing approach on planet Remina, advising all the passengers to put on their helmets since they don't know what to expect. All they do know is there's still a communication signal from one of the original astronauts who landed on it. They crash land, using up all their fuel to even manage that, but the actual surface looks... Well, you ever wonder what it would look like if H.R. Giger had designed Disneyland? Anyway, yeah, most of the crew survived the crash, including the Japanese Prime Minister and our plucky Menashis, though none of the actual people operating the spaceship did. Most everyone else is injured. Despite this supposedly being safe to live in a paradise, well, the air looks weird and purple and the surroundings are freaky deaky. Now, as I warned in the first Hellstar Remina episode, sometimes Junji Ito's artwork can get a bit gooey, so fair warning. The survivors elect to test the air by taking one of the terminally injured and remove their helmet to see if it's safe to breathe. And their face melts. Okay, I'm gonna mark this down as a maybe. So what's the technical definition for when your face has diarrhea? The group quickly begins to panic, not that human Remina is doing any better. She finally wakes up as the homeless guy continues to carry her. Now over Africa, much to her horror. What are you screaming about? You're alive! That's probably why she's screaming, man. Have you not seen the kind of day she's been having? They've been blown around the planet like a feather in the wind. They've already crossed through Asia and will be hitting South America in a few hours. And all the while, as he points out, they're still being pursued by a massive swarm of people. People are coming in from all over the world to take your life. It's that masked bozo keeps putting the call out. He says that, but I'm pretty sure most of these people are actually tourists who have realized this may be their last chance to see some parts of the Earth before it becomes lunch. And thus we have reached the final chapter, Endless Void. Wait! Remina! Remina! Can I get your autograph? Looks like they're still pinning all their hopes on killing you. Probably realized they shouldn't have screwed around for so long instead of just doing it. How's it feel knowing the whole world wants you dead? Mostly that I don't think I'm gonna be able to buy a replacement dress for what I'm wearing now. Ever the Saint, she apologizes for dragging him into this and says he should just hand her over to them. However, he points out that it wouldn't stop them. With the mob this crazed, they're not going to be satisfied with killing her, especially once it becomes clear that killing her won't stop Planet Remina. Unfortunately, as time goes on, the mob starts being a little more inventive, like some leaping into the air with pitchforks as they pass overhead and getting kicked for their troubles. All coming out of the woodwork. Doubt it's even our masked man calling him anymore. What we're seeing here is the human instinct to survive, no matter what. Really makes you think about how this is kind of goofy. Said goofiness is illustrated when someone pulls a gun, but of course the recoil from it just sends the guy spiraling away. Say, this is the future, right? Where are all the flying cars?
I was promised flying cars.
Don't worry, Avery Brooks' IBM commercial. There it is. Some dude trying to slam into the two with it. However, he accelerates into the wind and ends up out of control as well. Anyway, our heroes start finding it harder to breathe, the homeless guy figuring that the air is getting radiated out into space, but they finally arrive back in Japan. There's Mount Fuji and all the others going up. Still, if I gotta die somewhere, I'm glad it's here at home.
Always look on the bright side of life.
The cult leader somehow manages to catch up with them and grabs Remina's foot. The swarm gets to her, but I guess the Earth's spinning is either slowing, or in their crazed state they can't keep up their pace, since they all crash down into the ruined city beneath them. Back on planet Remina, the dad still insists that everything's gonna be fine. They'll be getting a transmission from his son any second now, explaining how the hell they survive here. But things go from bad to worse as they see that the melted remains of that person start to resemble Remina's surface. And indeed, a tentacle emerges from where their mouth used to be. Looks like you don't just liquefy, you actually get assimilated by the planet. Well, that's not how I would mulch my garden, but whatever works for you, Remina. The tentacle grows large enough to grab some of the survivors and crush them, while the Menashis run like hell. They finally come across the astronaut transmitting. Or rather, his suit, which moves around thanks to a tentacle inside of it. The tentacle withdraws back into the planet and the suit falls over. The last we see of the three is a tendril reaching out for them. We never find out where the transmission was coming from or anything like that, or why the tentacle was making the suit move the way it did, even made its arms and legs move. I wonder if maybe this story was meant to be longer, like 8 chapters or something like that, to explain some of the details like that and the cult leader having the same tongue and all. But nah, no explanation. Maybe the planet has a form of intelligence about it. It's instilling the extreme madness we're seeing in people on Earth and sending a fake signal to people to make them think everything's safe on the planet to lure in prey or something like that. In any case, these people are screwed. And so is the Earth, because planet Remina's tongue decides to get another taste of its snack. Remina's trying to figure out if it really is just 3 licks to the center of a Tootsie planet. Back on Earth, the homeless guy pulls Remina out of the pile of bodies. So just to add to her list of many, many traumatizing things this day has brought, she can now add waded through the bloody remains of many people. Caught in the wind, blown every which way, and here we are alive. Miracle, no other word for it. Unfortunately, that's when the homeless guy's glasses fall and shatter onto the ground. Spotting planet Remina's tongue getting ready to wrap around the entire planet, they start fleeing again. However, the movement of the tongue creates another massive windstorm, and it looks like the homeless guy is crushed under some rubble, but he just lifts it off of himself. I mean, he was running on water like an Asbar, and technically flying, and now super strength. Maybe this guy is Superman! Actually, he figures out that Remina's gravity is making everything light as a feather. Feels like that should have more of an effect on you guys then, but whatever. They find a family huddled in the ruins and take them along. Where, you might ask? To the Menashi home. He manages to get everyone inside and down into the bomb shelter that they had established in the first few chapters. However, before Remina can get inside, it turns out there was one other survivor of everyone falling down. the cult leader. He says it's time for her to die and pulls out a whip, but with all the wind blowing, the whip comes back and wraps around his mask, pulling it off and revealing Goda! Yeah, you remember Goda, right? President of Remina's fan club? One of the last few people who was with her before the Minashi kid really showed how horrible he was? Yeah, he's the cult leader. Okay, I should note, I don't actually think he was always the cult leader. It's more likely in the chaos of everything that happened, he found one of the cult outfits and put it on. Probably because of Remina rejecting him in Chapter 3. Still doesn't explain the tongue, though. She wants to know why the hell he did this, though, and his answer is vague. I won't let you give your heart away, Remina. You belong to all of us, to all mankind. Dude, she was a spokesmodel for a friggin' construction company. Get a better waifu. Nah, he quickly reveals that it was his own jealousy over her loving her boyfriend/manager more than him. It turns out toxic masculinity was the real planet-devouring monster. Aside from the actual planet-devouring monster. Anyway, the wind pulls him away, and the homeless guy pulls Remina into the basement. Who the hell was that? He was my biggest fan. Wait, are you telling me I carried your ass over the equator just to keep you from your fans? And so the two and the family retreat into the bunker as the Earth is finally devoured by planet Remina. Parts of it just being sucked into it before its massive teeth dig in and, well, planet go boom. And with that, planet Remina licks its lips and flies off to find something else to eat. Hopefully something that won't shoot missiles at it. However, we soon see that human Remina, the homeless guy, and the family have survived. Indeed, they had established the sheer durability of the bunker before. Independent air supply, plenty of supplies, so now they're just in a big chunk of Earth flying through the vacuum of space. The explosion sent them flying away, and they have about a year's worth of air and food. And Remina finally figures out who this homeless guy is. He is the former astronaut son of the Minashis. Quite a career path, going from astronaut to drunken wino, but that's the economy for you. Excuse me, you're Remina, aren't you? Yes. Thought so. I'm such a big fan. As such, I want to murder you and wear your skin. We bumped into these kids while the world was ending, but you wouldn't know it to look at them. Is this just the ending of Birdemic? They thank the homeless guy for saving them, but he points out that looking out into the endless void with only a year's worth of supplies, chances are not good. Still, a year? Time enough to sit and pray for another miracle. Good, good. Let the madness settle in now. It saves time. And so our comic ends with the homeless guy and the other four forming a pentagram, while Remina looks out into the void, quietly calling out for her dad and boyfriend. There's also an additional story in the whole collection called Army of One about people getting stitched together that makes no sense, but it's not actually relevant to Hellstar Remina itself, so we're skipping it. This manga is really good, but there are things about it that frustrate me. A lot of these points are repeated from the last review I did. The big issue is Remina herself, who is basically a prop in her own story. She goes through incredible hardship and horror and trauma, and while she survives, has no agency in what occurs in these events. At best, she has a few moments where she makes a choice between run away or be horribly murdered by the maniacs trying to torture her, but that's it. The homeless guy she just happens to run across, who also coincidentally is the long-lost son of her former sponsors, does more to push the story to its conclusion. And the comic really seems to have it in for her for no real reason. The torment she endures and we have to read is horrible, and if this was another writer, I might suspect that they were getting off on it with how much it happens, but I think better of Ito. It's one thing for a character to go through this kind of stuff and emerge as a stronger character, especially if driven by their own actions and desires, but Remina doesn't change as a result of all this. Doesn't have an arc. It's just, how much pain can she endure? The lack of explanation for a few things like the transmission, or the waving humanoid shapes, or the cult leader and tongue stuff are all annoying, but they don't take away your enjoyment of the overall story. As far as cosmic horror goes, it's especially good, demonstrating something completely inhuman that we can't fully comprehend that'd just as soon lick us as look at us. The sillier parts, like leaping across the world, are mitigated by the horrific and dramatic. Some people argued in the comments last year about how this was not a happy ending like I said. The thing is, they forgot my modifier. somewhat happy ending. Sure, their arguments are sound. They're gonna run out of food and water and air. The odds of any method of survival are slim to none. It's just prolonging the inevitable. But you could still conceive of possibilities where they survive. It's a low chance, yes, but it's still a chance. We don't know what else could be out there. Aliens, another planetary colony that wasn't destroyed by Remina, something else, I don't know. What we do know is that the title character is alive, and with people who aren't going to try to murder her for the crime of a planet being named after her. Yes, the Earth is destroyed, the human race is effectively extinct, and the odds are against them, but she's alive, and so are some other people. And I agree with Doctor Who. Where there's life, there's hope. And like our homeless astronaut said, it was a miracle already that they made it out in one piece. So if they beat the odds once, they could do so again.
Still, your whole family died. That's a bummer, huh?
Let's be real here. Compared to Junji Ito's other works, which usually have everybody dying or horribly disfigured or cursed forever, this is positively Care Bears in how saccharine and happy it is. Next time, our annual look at Youngblood, where the horrific is unintentional on the part of the author. See, they can survive in space. They just need to get their hands on that big cosmic sword floating down there.
Hello, my friends. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe, hit the bell, and share it with others. And if you get a chance, maybe check out my Patreon.